Trae Young has lost his mind. Like Skilo, he wishes he was a little bit taller. He doesn't think it would make him a baller. He thinks it would make him the greatest of all time. No, I'm not joking. I'm Trevor Lane for the Basketball Bulletin. Subscribe right here to the channel. Here's Trae Young explaining how highly he thinks of himself and how much he thinks his height is holding him back.
I was just saying, I used to hate when I used to see guys that's tall and that's all. You know what I'm saying?
Tall and that's all. That's what I'm saying.
They just out there, they tall and that's all, and they can finish and do all this stuff. And I mean, if I was 6'8", like I feel like I would be the best player to ever play this game, just because of my mentality and the way I play, just the smartness I have on this game. Like I feel like there's a lot I can bring, but there's a lot of deficiencies because like I'm 6'2", 6'1". Like it's tough. I'm playing in a big man's game. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like the percentages for me, I think it varies because like, I mean, you say it's heart and skill. Like for me, like it's a lot of it's skill. I mean, a lot of it's skill, but a lot of it's heart. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of guys, it's different. You know what I'm saying? It's not the same bar for everybody.
It's not the same bar for everybody, and Trae Young clearly jealous of people that are taller than him. And look, I get it. I'm not very tall myself. I understand you get sick of looking up, and especially if you're playing professional basketball, you're constantly surrounded by giants. But as Studio Stu here can prove, sometimes big things come in small packages. You can still be an impactful basketball player. But I'll tell you what, when Trae is saying that he could be the greatest ever if he were 6'8", he's absolutely delusional, because here's the problem. Trae Young, what's stopping him from being a better player? Look at why did Trae Young, despite being such an incredible talent, and there is no denying that he is insanely talented, why was he not invited to Team USA? Why was he not invited to play in the Olympics? Why would he not be on that team? It's because the game of basketball is played on two sides of the floor, not just one. Trae Young is a phenomenal offensive player. I think he doesn't get enough credit for how good he is as a passer. He assisted on an absurd percentage of his teammates' shots. He is a really good player. 98th percentile in assist percentage at his position. Think about that. 98th percentile among point guards in assist percentage. That meant most of his teammates' buckets were coming from Trae Young passes, even relative to other point guards in the NBA. That's absolutely phenomenal. His points per shot attempt, yes, his shooting has dipped a little bit, but still 63. That's not bad, ranked in the 63rd percentile. That's not bad relative to the rest of the league. It's not like that outlier season he had a couple of years ago, though, where he was in the 96th percentile. Part of that was due to his foul drawing ability. But no, it's the other side of the basketball. Look at here's the problem with Trae Young. This stuff that we're looking at right now, this doesn't get solved. Look at Trae Young. Off-ball defense. He's in La La Land. And I'm not talking about just being in LA in this clip here. Trae is not paying attention to what's going on the floor, and you're not seeing much effort. You know what? The problem is that doesn't get solved by being taller.
I used to have this same.
Take a look at this. Here's Trae Young playing defense, and the issues you're going to see here, none of these get solved by being taller. Now, this is from a couple of years ago, but still, Trae Young, who he's defending in these clips, it's Avery Bradley. That's right, known offensive powerhouse. Avery Bradley, who just drops buckets on everybody. No, this guy's a defensive specialist, and he is just raining buckets on Trae. Why? Because Trae's not paying any attention, because he's not putting in the effort on the defensive side of the ball. It doesn't look like defense is really something that's important to him. That does not get solved by being taller, and that is the part of Trae Young's game that is holding him back. Yes, he's small. There are going to be restrictions that come with that naturally. There are certain things that he's just not going to be able to do. Defending guys in the post, it's not going to happen. He's not big enough, and that's okay. But if you're able to put in effort, you can still be a feisty, pesky defensive player. Think about guys like Dennis Schroeder. He's tiny, and yet he still is able to hold his own. Now, it's taken a lot of work, though. There were years where Dennis Schroeder used to get picked on defensively, but he continued to be such a pest and work at it and work at it and work at it, then it's actually become a better part of his game. Trae Young could do the same thing, but he's focusing so much of his attention on the offensive end. And that's not to say that's even necessarily a bad thing. The Hawks, especially now that DeJounte Murray's out the door, they kind of need him to be that offensive engine for the team. But when Trae is trying to put himself in that rarefied air and saying, I could be the greatest to ever play if I was just 6'8", you are again failing to recognize what it is that's holding you back from being one of the greatest guards of this current generation. And that's the fact that you're only playing one side of the basketball. And that is a cardinal sin in today's NBA. You can't do that. What is it that wins championships? People used to say, oh, defense wins championships. You can't win championships with three-point shooting, whatever. That stuff has gone out the window. You know the truth now? It's two-way players win championships. You have guys who can play both sides of the ball because then it becomes difficult to exploit you. Look at what happens in the playoffs. Teams target certain players, whether it's on defense or on offense. Can't get it done offensively, defenses ignore you. You can't get stops, offenses will pick on you over and over and over again. It's part of why the Celtics are champions right now. They didn't have any weaknesses on either end of the floor that were exploitable. And so Trae Young is saying, I can be the greatest ever. You can't be the greatest ever when one side of your game can get picked on and exploited, and teams will game plan to go after you. You can't do that. He's got to get better on that side of the ball. And I say all of that, again, as somebody who thinks that Trae Young has actually flipped into being underrated at this point. I think he's still a good basketball player. I think he's somebody that can help teams win games, but he's got to get better on defense. And sorry, Trae, being 6'8" isn't going to change all that much. Yes, it'll make you a little bit bigger, but it's not going to make you put in the extra effort to get around that screen. It's not going to make you take those extra steps to close out. There are advantages with being taller in basketball. There's no denying that. Trae is at a disadvantage by the fact that he's 6'1", that he's tiny for this sport. But being 6'8" would certainly not solve all that ails Trae Young. But everybody, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you agree with me on Trae Young? And where do you put him overall in terms of the point guard hierarchy in the NBA? Is he a top tier player? Is he a second tier player? Where do you put him? Is it possible for his defense to get to where the Hawks need it to be and to get to where Trae Young needs it to be if he's ever going to get into this rarefied air that he seems to put himself in? Obviously, he thinks very highly of himself. He's a very confident individual. Nothing wrong with that, but you got to be grounded in reality. And Trae, you got to play defense if you're going to consider yourself to be that good. So everybody, give me your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget, subscribe right here to the channel as well. Till next time, see ya and stay safe.